Today's story is not just a tale. It is a true incident. What a jinn did to an innocent girl named Sarah will give you goosebumps. It was a jinn that both loved Sarah and destroyed her. What happened that night? How could a jinn perform such vile and shameful acts with Sarah, and how did her life change in an instant? Listen with a steady heart, because this story will hold you until the very end. They say jinns do not only hate, they also love. But the human they fall in love with has to pay the price of that love with their very soul. And in today's story, we will learn exactly that. Perhaps you have never heard such a story before. Our story today is about Sarah. Sarah lived in Libya with her parents. Libya is a desert land, a country famous for its politics, and buried beneath the sands of that desert are unsolved, terrifying stories that still blow around like dust. We have all heard about jinns at some point, sometimes from people, sometimes in stories, and we also know that there are two types of jinns, good and bad. Good jinns sometimes help humans, but if you fall into the clutches of a bad jinn, your life is ruined. And Sarah's fate brought her face to face with a jinn where, by the end, it became a bargain for her death. Sarah lived in a coastal town near Tripoli. It had only been 2 to 3 years since she moved to Libya, and she hadn't explored the place much yet. Sarah was 19 years old and spent all her time in the library surrounded by books. She was quiet, simple, and obsessed with books. Her friends would often tease her, saying, "Sarah, you love paper and stories more than people." And they weren't wrong. For Sarah, the most peaceful moments were when she would close the library shutters, take an old diary or map, and set out alone in search of some historical site. Sarah's hobbies were very different from others. While others went to cafes, watched movies, or played sports to find happiness, Sarah felt alive only amidst the screaming silence of ruins. One day, Sarah decided to go to the ancient city of Leptis Magna. It was a place where many tourists came during the day to walk around and take pictures, but once night fell, no one dared to set foot there. The reason was the old legends spread about the place. It was said that among those deserted buildings, the broken Roman arches, and the sand scattered by the sea, it wasn't humans, but only jinns who resided. To Sarah, these were just stories, legends written in library books that she read as fiction. But there was a strange restlessness inside her, a question she asked herself: are these stories true? Have the paths of humans and jinns ever collided? Do jinns truly fall in love with humans? Or is it all just stories? This curiosity forced Sarah to take that step. She thought, let's go and see for once. As evening fell and the sky turned from blue to black, Sarah took her diary and flashlight and set out, telling herself it would just be a short walk, just to see the difference between reality and fairy tales. But Sarah had no idea that what she called a short walk was going to be the longest and most terrifying night of her life. Sarah reached the place by the sea. It was very peaceful. Sarah felt as if she had found heaven. She had never felt such peace and happiness. Sarah sat quietly among the waves and began to enjoy the open environment. All around, there was only the sound of birds and the slow, rhythmic pulse of the sea waves. Sarah sat there, lost in her own thoughts. Now, Sarah had a habit. Whenever she was free or felt very good, she would write poetry. And that night, she started writing a poem. Sarah had no friends. She moved and shifted locations often, because of which her old friends were lost somewhere behind. Sarah was in search of a life partner. She was going through an age where she wondered, how does it feel? How does it feel to be in a relationship? How does it feel when you have someone near you with whom you can share everything? Someone who will ask, have you eaten? Did you sleep well? How are you? What are you doing? These things were spinning in Sarah's head. For now, Sarah's only companion was her diary, in which she described all her feelings. And in this way, she wrote a poem. Every wave prostrates to my heart, and every shore feels like the harem of your memory. The light of your beauty is brighter than the moon. Every pattern of my soul seems to be the influence of your love. O beloved, Your name on my lips is that prayer, which feels like a conversation with the Lord during Tahajjud. As soon as she finished these lines, Sarah heard the sound of someone walking behind her. Hearing that sound, Sarah was immediately startled, because, until then, she thought no one was there. When someone suddenly appears behind you, it's natural to get scared. Now, when Sarah turned around to look, there were 4 boys behind her, talking among themselves. Sarah felt a bit uncomfortable seeing them. Sarah began to leave. She lowered her dupatta and started walking while looking down. Those 4 boys were right in front, and Sarah had to cross them to get to the path. Sarah was walking with her head down, but then, for some reason, she felt like looking up once. As soon as she raised her eyes, one of the 4 boys was right in front of her, and Sarah bumped into him. Call it a coincidence or whatever you like, but that boy was also looking at Sarah. After that, Sarah didn't think much. She just kept her gaze low and started walking straight towards her home. Sarah went home, ate comfortably, and then fell asleep. To her, there was nothing worth remembering, like, why did this happen? It was very normal, and she also felt that the place wasn't as scary as everyone thought. Instead, there was a different kind of peace there. People just make up stories for no reason and spread rumors. The curiosity Sarah had inside her also vanished, and she fell asleep. After that, Sarah had a dream that she was inside a desert and her feet were sinking into the sand. When Sarah looked up, the moon above was half burning and the other half was completely dull. The air there was cold, but with it was a strange burning sensation, as if sparks of fire were mixed in the wind. It was a very strange feeling. Like when wood is burning and you are made to stand near it, you start feeling that burning sensation. Sarah felt that same burning. Sarah couldn't understand what to do. Right then, she saw a shadow, a massive shadow, walking towards her. Its eyes were blood red, and that shadow was very tall. He came close to Sarah and said, "You are only mine." Sarah's lips remained open, but the voice got stuck in her throat. And then something happened. Sarah felt as if someone had placed a burning piece of wood in her hand. She screamed loudly and woke up abruptly. When Sarah woke up, she finally felt relaxed that whatever it was just a dream. But she didn't know where the smell of burning wood was still coming from. Sarah was so frightened, yet also so relieved that it was a dream, that she didn't pay any more attention to these things. Sarah drank some water and then went back to sleep. And from the next day, Sarah's life began to change. At first, only small things happened, like her room door opening slightly on its own or the curtains moving without any wind. Sarah thought maybe it was her imagination. Then, while Sarah was sitting in one place, her eyes fell on the table. The Quran was kept on the table, and she saw one page of the Quran moving in a very strange way. When Sarah went to look at that page, the entire Quran was printed, but on that page it looked like someone had written something separately with a pen. It was written, "Jinns can see humans, but humans cannot see jinns." This was written separately on that page, which made Sarah feel very strange. How could someone write this, and why would they? Sarah was thinking about this when she heard her mother's voice and left from there. A few days passed like this. Then, one night, while she was lying in bed waiting for sleep, she heard a faint whisper right next to her ear, saying, "I am here." Her breath caught in her throat. Sarah jerked upright, but the whole room was empty. Only Sarah's shadow was cast on the wall due to the lamplight. Another very strange thing started happening to Sarah. Now, whenever she woke up, her body would ache severely. It felt as if when she slept, someone placed a very heavy weight on her, and when she woke up, the effect of that weight, the pain, was very agonizing. The second thing that Sarah ignored, but her mother noticed, was that Sarah had started becoming very weak. Day by day, she was getting thinner, and it was visible. Dark circles began to appear under her eyes. You could even say her whole face started to get ruined. At first, her mother thought maybe she was doing some weight loss routine, so she didn't pay much attention. But one day, while Sarah was making something in the kitchen, her mother heard the sound of utensils falling. She called out to Sarah from outside, but Sarah didn't answer. She rushed to the kitchen and saw Sarah lying on the floor, and everything she was making was scattered around the kitchen. Right then, Sarah's mother saw a shadow figure going out through the window. When her mother looked outside the window, there was nothing. Suddenly, Sarah's mother felt something was wrong. She picked Sarah up, took her to the room, and laid her down. Her father also arrived. When they found out Sarah's condition was like this, they came running. The mother told everything, that this is happening, she is losing weight, and she saw a shadow. Sarah's father thought he might have seen his own shadow. Sometimes it happens, you see your own shadow on the side. So he said, "Don't tension yourself, she is growing up, that's why she's losing weight and such changes come to the body. Don't worry, Sarah is fine." But Sarah's condition began to worsen. It became so terrible that sometimes, at night, Sarah's voice would change. She would start growling in a man's voice. The doctor said maybe the fever had reached her head, which is why Sarah was doing this. Sarah's parents, for some reason, were ignoring everything they saw, as if someone had them under control, as if someone wasn't letting their attention go that way. A few more days passed. Sarah's body had turned completely pale. And Sarah, who was so beautiful and sweet, suddenly became so thin that it looked like just a skeleton. There was no meat on her body. From solid diet, Sarah had moved to a liquid diet. Doctors were trying hard, but nothing could be found out about her illness. One day, Sarah's father was sitting in his office in tension when his manager came and asked about Sarah. He also knew about Sarah's condition. At first, the father said it was just bad health, but then he explained everything clearly, how she growls in a man's voice at night, and how her condition keeps worsening without any reason. The manager was shocked. Why wasn't this man taking his daughter to a Mulvey? Because everything that was happening was very abnormal. It was telling you somewhere that something was very wrong which could not be fixed by doctors. The manager told him, "Look, don't tension yourself. My father is a renowned alim." The manager asked Sarah's father to meet him. In the evening, the two planned to go to the manager's house to meet the alim. But as soon as evening came, a call came from Sarah's mother saying Sarah was acting very strange. Because of this, Sarah's father had to cancel the plan to go to the manager's house, and he ran to his own home. The manager had some idea that as soon as they made a plan here, Sarah's strange behavior started there. The manager said nothing and went to his own house. When Sarah's father came home and Sarah saw him, she ran and grabbed her own father's throat. Her eyes were so red it looked like they were filled with blood, and in a very angry male voice, she said, "You want to take Sarah away from me?" Sarah's father couldn't understand how a girl who couldn't even stand until now could run and grab a throat so tightly. While this was happening, the doorbell rang. As soon as the bell rang, Sarah looked toward the door, got scared, and ran to her room and locked her door. When Sarah's father opened the door, the manager was there with his father, the alim, and two imams. They said that when the manager told them everything, they understood that this was not something to be fixed with medicine. Rather, something else was needed to fix Sarah. The alim asked, "Where is Sarah?" Her father said she was upstairs in her room. Sarah had locked the door from the inside, but her mother had a second key. She opened the door. Everyone went inside but saw that Sarah was nowhere to be seen. It wasn't clear where Sarah had vanished in the empty room. But then, one of the two imams looked up, and Sarah was sitting right on top of the wardrobe, watching them and laughing. That form of Sarah was very terrifying. Seeing this, her mother and father stayed outside the room in fear. The alim first made his intention a purple and protection. He started reciting Surah Al-Fatiha and Ayatul Kursi from the Quran so the environment could clear up. The two imams stood around Sarah and began reciting the Quran with full focus. They didn't give Sarah a moment to speak. Sarah, who was sitting on top of the wardrobe, was scared at first, but as the sound of the Quran spread through the room, Sarah began to calm down. Then, without anyone's help, she climbed down from the wardrobe herself. The alim, looking at Sarah, said, "Whoever is inside can come out. We will not harm you." At first, Sarah didn't move, as if someone was holding her back. Then the alim lightly touched her with a miswak for ruqya and focused on the verses of Surah al-Baqarah. Right then, a strange voice came out of Sada. That voice was a man's voice, which slowly grew faint as if someone was backing away. The imam and alim stood in the four corners of the room reciting Quranic verses, and the lamp of prayer was lit so that whoever was inside could be trapped. As the three of them began reciting together, Sarah, who had been quite aggressive until now, slowly started to calm down. The alim and imam were questioning Sarah to understand what was going on. At that time, a shadow came right next to Sarah, sitting on the ground doing nothing. Seeing it, the alim understood what it was, but he continued the questioning. He asked, "Who are you, and what do you want?" But whatever question he asked the shadow, Sarah was giving the answer, as if that shadow was still inside Sarah and she was speaking for it. He revealed that he was a jinn, and on the day Sarah went to Leptis Magna and saw those four boys, the one she bumped into and met eyes with was a jinn. From the moment her gaze met his, he had taken possession over Sarah's body. He had been inside Sarah's body since that night. When Sarah slept at night, he would come out of the body and do things to Sarah that cannot be mentioned here. When Sarah found out about these things, she had to go through a major medical condition. The alim said, "You have done what you had to do. Now leave from here." At first, the jinn refused. He didn't want to agree. He said, "I will take Sarah with me and I will keep doing this with her until she comes with me," meaning until Sarah dies. But the alim had great knowledge of these matters. He and the imams recited more things, after which the jinn got scared and said, "Fine, I am leaving from here, but you will not do anything to me." A sort of deal or contract was made between them, that the jinn would leave and never come near them again, and the alim would not harm the jinn. After that, the jinn vanished, and then Sarah also became okay. The jinn left, but because of the things Sarah found out, the things that had happened to her, she faced many problems. Sarah went into depression. That girl who used to get lost in books now just sat in one place, lost somewhere in her own thoughts, talking to herself. She would shiver and scream. When night came, she felt a strange fear, which was quite natural. She now slept with her parents and wouldn't even let them turn off the light. This continued for a year. Sarah's medication went on for a year. Sarah went to the doctor constantly. She went to a therapist for a year. But even after all that, Sarah's condition has not fully recovered. Where she used to love those places, going to empty ruins and exploring, now she doesn't even look at them. If she is passing by and sees a ruin in front of her, she runs away. She leaves from there, keeps her eyes down. If someone comes in front of her, she doesn't meet their eyes. All this trauma has settled somewhere deep inside her, making a home that isn't leaving. She has tried everything, medicine, therapists, but nothing is helping much. It will take time for Sarah to come out of these things. How much time, even Sarah doesn't know. She is a strong girl, and I hope Sarah can recover soon and start her new life again. So, from this story, we learn to what extent a jinn or an evil power can harm you if it enters you, or if you come face to face with one. To what extent it can make your life forbidden, not if you'll amel. And it was good fortune that the manager found out about these things, that his father was an alim who separated that jinn from Sada. If he hadn't, you cannot even imagine what would have happened to Sada. None of us can imagine. Whatever would have happened would have been very bad. So that's all for today, friends. If this story touched your heart, Then like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel.